What's up, beautiful people of the world? This is Natty Nature. I hope you keep lifting as the earth keeps shifting out there. And I'm a fitness guy. I love lifting weights. I love bodybuilding, you know. But whatever that is for you, that's healthy and not hurting others. Anything that brings you peace, happiness, you know, that inner ooze from I hope you continue doing it, and I hope you don't let the world beat you down too much out there. And I'm bringing you my first video of this channel. The ever-encroaching human civilization hasn't been really so kind on our furry friends.
No! God, please, no!
But there are some that win. They win no matter what. They got surviving on their mind. They ain't never given up. And this list isn't going to include any domesticated animals. So no cats, no dogs, no cattle kind of animals, you know, like chickens and cows. These are wild animals that gain pretty much a net positive or coexist alongside humans in some degree. So without further ado and all that hoopla.
Sounds like a lot of
Hoopla! Hoopla!
Out of the way, let's just dive right into it. Leopards and mountain lions. Big cats, especially these two, like the natural ninjas of Earth. And while low in this list, meaning they fall more into the side of just coexisting alongside us, these two species gain identical advantages by our presence. Densely populated areas of, well, us, tend to have dense populations of the aforementioned house cats and dogs. So these two natural ninjas are in fact dog and cat killers.
Just 9 hours after a frightening wildlife encounter that was deadly for their family pet.
Especially leopards, where in some parts of Africa and India, they can from time to time even be attracted towards human villages or even large cities with a high presence of street dogs. Sometimes these street animals make up large bulks of their diet locally. So keep Lassie and Mr. Fluffy locked up tight if you happen to live alongside these two formidable predators. Like all big cats, they occasionally prey opportunistically on cattle, usually taking smaller animals, sheep, goats, and chickens, but leopards and mountain lions are no joke when they're in their prime and routinely take prey 2 to 5 times their own body weight every couple of weeks or more. Besides snacking out on Lassie, Mr. Fluffles, and our livestock, both of these cats surprisingly coexist well within semi-rural or even suburban and city environments. Plenty of tracking studies done on both of these species surprised biologists to just how many live in very close proximity to us in suburban environments. Yet in some of these areas, the locals have never even seen one their entire lifetime. Living in these areas, yeah, they're ninjas. Most of what I call heart of the forest species, think tigers, wolves, lions, bears, I know, oh my, right? They do really bad around people. They're a beast in a man's world that have a tough time adapting around us. Tons of studies prove these animals suffer just generally higher mortality rates the closer proximity they are to people. They have higher elevated cortisol levels versus ones living deep in the wilderness. They just don't thrive with us around, with us in the picture. They need large expanses of wilderness and really living out their fullest life. And let's be honest, leopards and pumas would probably fare better off without us, yet they adapt. They're versatile by comparison to their larger kin. Leopards naturally thrive in vastly different habitats with a large range. Mountain lions thrive in vastly different habitats with a large range. Leopards compete and live on the outskirts of lions, hyenas, African painted wild dogs, and so on. Mountain lions compete and live on the outskirts of black bears and wolves, depending on the area. Sometimes even living on the outskirts of brown bears. They face the same threats, compete against similar circumstances regarding species that will steal their kills. A mountain lion is basically a New World leopard, the American version that fills a similar ecological niche of keeping herbivores' populations in check. So it's obvious both of these beasts have the flexibility that gives them a one-up in a man's world. At number 4, we have ungulate, a fancy term for mammals with hoofs. Various species like American deer, African gazelles of all types, zebras, wildebeest, impalas, warthogs, among many other species. All have been documented in cleverly using heavily dense human settlements as a deterrent against predation. Yep, you guessed it, from avoiding things like mountain lions, wolves, coyotes, black bears for the American ungulates, and of course avoiding lions, wild dogs, leopards, and hyena clans in Africa. As much as I went on about mountain lions and leopards adapting to human heavy areas, they typically stay out of hot zones, so to speak. You know, they don't really feel comfortable strolling downtown near the local Starbucks midday. But plenty of studies have proved wild animals are a lot smarter than people give them credit for, as many animals have a general sense of spatial awareness when it comes to human activity. They know the hot spots, they know the fringes, they know how to exploit food in the area. They know our daily routines, when certain areas are heavy in foot or vehicle traffic versus when not. So it's not really shocking that, surprise, ungulate species worldwide have been documented to use human settlements as a safety net. You know, we typically don't mind when little Bambi be chilling in our yard, unless they're eating your flowers or something. It's a aw moment. This is contrasted with the fact of animals we perceive as a threat. We respond much more viscerally, a natural built-in anti-predator sentiment. It's like ingrained in us. Again, a beast in a man's world ain't easy living. This isn't just a dumb YouTuber talking either. A study done dually by the Center for Wildlife Management Studies, the School for Field Studies in Karutu, Tanzania, I hope I pronounced that right, and the University of California in Berkeley, California, did a very long study called Anti-Predator Behavior of African Ungulates Around Human Settlements. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a long read, but it's very interesting. This is also something I have seen in real life. There was an area I used to go, mainly to shoot my compound bow. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and it was very rural. I'm talking like 3 hours off the grid from any phone service, kind of rural. It was the sticks. And there was public hunting areas, and people would go out there and shoot, you know, target practice in the off season. And I noticed the deer, the local white-tailed deer, would come closer to the public campgrounds during the off hunting season, despite people shooting at targets and stuff like that. But when hunting season rolled around, they would disappear. They would go deeper into the woods. It was a teeter-totter of using humans as a deterrent from cougars and bears. And when hunting season rolled around, they opted for taking their chances with the predators when a bunch of armed men with shotguns rolled up. Man, that's gotta be hard living. These deer did this like clockwork, year after year. And herbivores in general, like even rabbits for example, in like a suburban environment, they prosper within the safety net outside of, you know, birds of prey regarding rabbits. So deer do the same thing. They have a relatively good life in higher populated areas. In places like suburbs, they just go yard to yard, just eating people's lawns and shrubs while humans chase away any potential predator. And in these areas that are well settled, a lot of times there's city ordinances against, well, firing a gun. And no hunting is allowed in these areas for obvious reasons. So these ungulates oftentimes prosper without any natural predators, man or beast, and they know it. Often to the detriment of the natural order, causing issues with the local plants that are being overeaten by the herbivores. They are meant to be kept in check by predators. And it sounds pretty wicked, but without predators, oftentimes the deer populations, for example, themselves suffer much worse fates like disease and even starvation once they're overpopulated. This is how ungulates knowingly get a one-up in a man's world. Rats with wings, labeled by some, are very common sights within large cities. People barely even bat an eye at them. And if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, yes, pigeons gain a lot from human settlements. They have been used as messenger birds called homing pigeons or male pigeons for thousands of years prior to the invention of telephones. They have an innate natural homing ability that have an inner compass that guides them back to nesting and roosting sites thousands of miles away. This is done through a fancy scientific word called magnetoreception. It basically allows a variety of different animal species in utilizing the Earth's magnetic fields as a compass, a general sense of navigation. This relationship with pigeons and humans as a form of distant communication was also employed during the heat of battle as recently as World War II, and I believe it's still used sometimes in battle situations, rarely even to this very day, when technology fails us. And pigeons have saved many human lives in the process. For example, the British Dickens Award is the highest award of honor an animal can earn in the service of humans for their valor. And no surprise, the large majority of the animals that have been awarded this are pigeons and dogs, with a lot of pigeons, which is crazy, right? Followed by the occasional horse and some other animals. So calling them rats with wings is a bit disrespectful after all the good they have done for us in the past. And what do we do to repay them? We abandon them. We label them vermin and employ falconry in trying to cull off their populations. And I get it, they really have blown up in population sizes, especially within large cities. The worry in terms of potential health risks, as nearly all of the health risks associated with pigeons are through their feces, specifically their dried feces that can aerosolize when disturbed. So basically, if you're cleaning up pigeon doo-doo, wear an appropriate mask, as this has killed people. These so-called diseases with wings aren't as dirty or vectors of diseases as many people assume right off the bat. Honestly, there's not much of a risk at all in everyday, day-to-day kind of interactions with a pigeon, as long as you're not like making out with them or something. They can contract the West Nile virus from mosquitoes, but they can't spread it to humans. They pose some risk for the serious yet rarely fatal with medical intervention, psittacosis, that is most commonly, again, received from direct contact with their feces, and even rarer, handling. Like a lot of other animals, they can transmit salmonella if in direct contact with your food source, or again, rarely, through handling, and can be infested with avian mites, which are nasty little buggers. But infestations targeting people of these avian mites, it's not technically impossible, it's a rarity, it's not very common. This inner hatred towards pigeons, a lot of times unfounded, is a mix of not wanting to be crapped on, which, touche on that reason. I'll give you that. Also comes from like a subconscious level. There's something that's perceived as wild within the artificial boundaries of a cityscape. Acts as like even more of a nuisance to people in the wrong way, if that makes any sense. If I had to take a stab in the dark, because cities are our spaces, and we choose when and how nature is present within them, from everything to the shrubbery and trees to the animals we allow in them in our lives through our pets. City slickers, right? The common pigeon dwell primarily on cliffs within their natural arid desert environments, relying on them heavily for safety, roosting, and nesting. Our buildings mimic this exact same function. They play the system in a man's world so well that much of their modern range is a byproduct of human expansion, building upon our winds, fitting the literal definition of this video. They have an omnivorous diet, like a lot of people, meaning they can eat pretty much anything, giving them an ease of access to food within cities. City pigeons, or feral pigeons, that rely solely on human garbage, even have social structures where some pigeons are the so-called producers. The producers, produce. They go out and find available food sources for the rest of the flock, then signal to them, the scroungers, that basically just freeload. Flocks of pigeons primarily consist of these so-called scroungers. Easy living for them, right? Although all of this is fine and dandy for our winged, versatile friends, they still don't completely avoid natural predators, even within larger cities. Their primary threats like them are also winged, also avian. Threats from the sky like owls, hawks, falcons, eagles, kestrels, even sometimes seagulls, ravens and crows, crazily enough, at times can prey on them. On the ground, they have to worry about feral and domestic cats a lot of the times, and rarely from time to time, raccoons. But all of this makes pigeons a versatile and misunderstood bird, living in a world that has since forgotten their good deeds of the past, then thrown aside by the humans as time trudged on, as modern technology evolved, making them obsolete. They're birds that adapted. They're birds that took an opportunity like any real one would, gaining a one-up in a man's world. Rats and mice easily could be number one on this list, let's be real. The only reason I didn't put them up on the top is because, well, they do fine without humans. As well, they thrive in the wild too, unlike number one for this video. The two most common rat species, the Norway rat, known as the brown rat, and the wharf rat or ship rat because it came over on ships, commonly known as the black rat, are highly associated with humans, living pretty much wherever we live, all around the world, in all continents, except for Antarctica. So, anywhere we live. They are extremely intelligent, social animals, and despite being the food source for a vast amount of predators, ranging from reptiles, birds of prey, domestic and wild cats of all kinds and sizes, their overall numbers aren't ever largely affected by this because they are adept climbers, swimmers, extremely competent, swift runners. They be getting away the majority of the time. Snakes and birds of prey have the largest impact on rodent populations. They have insane anti-predation adaptations in terms of hearing or smelling any potential predators. They fall back on labyrinthian mazes in escaping, routinely practice general risk assessment around unfamiliar areas. They be casing joints out to see if there's any escape routes, and specifically rats, if all else fails, they'll stand their ground. They have extremely sharp teeth that they sharpen themselves until they die. Yes, their teeth never stop growing throughout their entire life because of what we call open-rooted dentition. These teeth cost humans massive amounts of money.
We've got to have money.
From property damage every year, these little buggers chew through just about anything. Wires, walls, plumbing, you name it, they'll chew it. And can even cause, in extreme circumstances, electrical fires from chewing through said wires. It's estimated that the property damage that rodents can do yearly worldwide for private homeowners and businesses easily surpasses $1 billion. Yes, $1 billion+ in damages. That's enough to make Bill Gates and Elon Musk flinch. It's also estimated yearly that mice and rats cost agricultural grain harvests, yes, get ready, $19 billion in just the United States alone. Just the United States, freaking crazy, huh? A single rat eats around 20 to 40 pounds of grain a year, when crop access to said grain is possible, of course. They poop around 25 to 30,000 droppings, and this doo-doo contaminates around 10 to 15 times the amount of grain they eat through their doo-doo and urine. They also spread salmonella like many animals from food source to food source. They be a menace for real.
Hero or menace?
And although rodents were a huge part of the spread of the deadly bubonic plague, you know, the Black Death, it was actually caused by a flea that bit said infected rodent, then bit said human. Yeah, a messed up cycle that the Grim Reaper must have loved. The Black Death was named appropriately, and mortality was very high without treatment, like anywhere from 30 to 90% high. The rascals do bring some good into the world, it ain't all bad. Like I already stated, they are a crucial food source for birds of prey and snakes. In the wild, their burrows help the fertility of the soil through aeration of the dirt, kind of like earthworms. They control, to some degree, insect populations, and they contribute to seed dispersal of plant species. us, which is a good thing. They just have an affinity for humans, an almost like soul link with us, and well, they ain't really going anywhere. It's kind of funny because most experts, before a recent study back in 2017, just kind of assumed mice and rats started conjoining with us at the hip around the time, mankind started using agriculture, domestic animals, planting them crops, boy, planting them seeds.
Ooh, oh yeah, baby. Ready to receive your seed.
But no.
No.
They were wrong. They have coexisted alongside us a lot longer than the dawn of agriculture. Fossil evidence creates the perfect paper trail that rodents have been with us in the shadows even 15,000 years ago, well before agriculture. They exploit us for food and shelter, not only benefiting, gaining a one-up in a man's world. And finally, we on number 1. Yeah, cockroaches.
Well.
Specifically, German cockroaches. They are at the very least fascinating prehistoric creatures, literally living fossils, that have been around a lot longer than us for at least 150 million years. Many experts believe they were even here possibly over 300 million years ago. They're ancient, like I said, literal living fossils. And for some context, modern humans as we view modern humans today have been around for just 300,000 years, with a lot of our evolutionary ape-like ancestors and so on going back around to 7 million years ago or so. So cockroaches have been around the block, boy. They know the ins and outs of surviving. And humans are just yet another new hurdle in their millions upon millions of years prospering on this planet. Seen as grotesque and revolting, they play as nature's cleaning crew, with most of the species not being anything of a pest or vermin for us. Out of literally over 4,000 species of cockroaches, just 30 can ever be considered a house pest. Yeah, most of them just live out in the woods and clean up dead leaf matter and stuff like that. But German cockroaches are in fact one of those 30, and they are the worst type of cockroach you find in your home, apartment, or whatever, because they are extremely difficult to get rid of. They're notorious for their resilience, even known for evolving to become resistant on a molecular level to certain chemical pesticides. They have literally evolved to be resistant to pesticides that we use. They're extremely fast breeding and reaching sexual maturity, can fit and hide in extremely small crevices, can live with little amounts of food or water for extended periods of time, and within our natural habitat besides us, they lack natural predators in human spaces, making them the ultimate household pest.
I'm the king of the world!
Able to exploit and carve out a extremely tenacious ecological niche in apartments, houses, prisons, hospitals, restaurants, anywhere where we live basically, they can thrive. German cockroaches and most of their populations worldwide have literally evolved around humans. Yes, around us. German roaches originally were thought to come from, Germany. Then they were thought to maybe come from Africa, but even more recent findings show they most likely evolved from the Oriental Asian cockroach. The thing about German roaches these days is they pretty much spread because of us, similar to rats and pigeons. A little over 2,000 years ago, they split up from two lineages of a sort of like specialization types of Asian cockroaches. There was ones that specialized in exploiting agriculture, then there was ones that exploited, human dwellings. They be eating our scraps, boy. These little buggers, they evolved around us to the point they're considered domestic animals. Think about that. Like Mr. Mittens or Scrappy, or cows and chickens. Freaking crazy, right? They're domesticated at this point. They don't tolerate cold very well at all. Well, yeah, they're from Asia, yet are within Arctic environments, very far north and south, as long as, you guessed it, have access to us, our dwellings. They live vicariously through us like that one Tool song back in the day. And a single female carries her eggs around in a thing called a ootheca. I love that damn word. Usually consisting on average up to 32 eggs. Could be as much as 50. It's a lot of little baby roaches, man. They lay a lot of damn eggs, allowing them to explode in population sizes. They're also cannibals, so if they run low on food, they just eat each other. They prefer to spend the majority of their time in confined spaces, hidden away from our prying eyes. They're feisty little German buggers, and they're extremely difficult in ousting from a dwelling. So a spray and pray exterminator mentality is not really the way to typically go about it. It's not a one and done. You need constant systematic visits from said pest control, a sustained extermination plan over time. And in apartments, especially older buildings, they move room to room, even infesting the actual base foundations of buildings, crawling upwards throughout. They can hold their breath underwater for 7 minutes, can survive without their heads, I'm sure you've heard of that one, for weeks at a time, can survive radiation, think rad roaches from Fallout. Yeah, they're just tough to get rid of. They're also smart for a bug. Like, I know that sounds kind of weird. In terms of their intelligence, I don't know. They're not like smart. I don't know how to put it. They have like a personality that most bugs don't have. They have not a personality. I guess it's more of like a presence. Most bugs kind of just like exist. They're like locked into their own world. For the most part, they don't even notice you're there. They're just oblivious, I guess is the best way to put it. But roaches, on the other hand, are very alert. They're self-aware and form a sort of, like I said, presence. I've had similar feelings regarding some spider species as well. It's kind of hard to explain. There's something there with roaches, a rare quality in most little critters. They're hard to kill, freeload off us for shelter and food, lack natural predators in our domains. Over time, literally evolved resistance towards various pesticides. Their survivalism has literally evolved around us and expanded as our living condition increased. Think air conditioning, think indoor heating, think water and sewage and so on. As our lives got better, their lives got better. Is how these ancient insects gain a massive one-up in a man's world.